Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get into the breaking news. You sent it to me. And again, I do have an article here regarding the leaked information for the Xbox Ally and the Ally X. And well, folks, this is a story that I pulled here from Windows Central, written by the one, the only Jez Corden, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Rand Althor each and every week. Well, the title or the lead title for the article that Jez wrote says the Xbox Ally and Ally X prices may have leaked, and if true, it's not as bad as I thought. Well, I guess he's got bucks, but you know, we'll get into it. It goes on to say Microsoft and Asus are gearing up to launch the Xbox Ally PC gaming handheld later this year, and the biggest question remains fixed on everyone's minds is the price. He goes on to ask the question, do we have our first answer? Well, a few weeks ago, we exclusively leaked that the Xbox Ally, codenamed Kenan, not Keenan, in development with Asus ROG. The Ally range is powered by a Z2 APU, including the first handheld that will support the Z2 Extreme on the high end, which sounds great. Now, the article goes on to say, Fuzzy Belvedere, there have been some rumors about the pricing ranging, and it's been, fluctuating depending on who you speak to, from either $800 to almost and potentially $1,000. Now, according to a new report from 3D Jugos via Instagram, may have given us our first glance. Apparently, this is leaked. These photos are leaked from Asus themselves. And honestly, according to Jez Corden, it's not as bad as he expected. And it has here, now mind you, folks, these are the European pricing. This is for Europe. This is the price. The Ally X at 899 pounds, which equates to a little over $1,000. The Ally, the lesser version, the white version, is apparently coming in at 599 pounds. Look, Fuzzy, these things were going to be expensive. I think that the white version coming in at the lesser price is almost, it very much seems similar to the Xbox Series X and S, right? You have the X that is over $500 when it came out after tax. It was, and then of course you had its lesser little brother at $299, which was a $200 difference. Obviously, the prices have gone up due to tariffs and such, but for me personally, I'm buying this. I don't care what it costs. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I'm not made of money. As you know, I'm a retired guy. I'm buying this. I'm not getting one from Xbox to review. The channel is way too small. Have I inquired? Of course I have, but they have not answered back. I wonder why. So there you go. It's unlikely that I'm going to get hands-on with it here at home to review it. The channel is too small. Look, I wouldn't give it to myself. I'm not even going to lie. But I am buying it nonetheless. And I know, again, $1,000 is a lot of money. It's probably coming out, if I had to take a blind stab at it, Fuzzy, I think it arrives right before the holiday. It makes sense, right? It makes too much sense. Gamescom is happening in a couple of weeks. I won't say more than a couple of weeks, but towards the end of August, we're halfway through July, so about 6 weeks, give or take. I have a feeling that it's going to be there in a big way. I really do. And of course, Tokyo Game Show, Xbox has just been confirmed to be there. I have a strong suspicion that it's also going to be there. But interestingly enough, I'm wondering if a big Japanese game, whether it be a known game or a new game, could show up and shown off with the handheld in Japan for TGS 25, because that's what I would do. Obviously, that audience. I mean, they buy consoles, of course they do, but not like they did in the past. They're PC gaming, they're handheld gaming, they're less is more, and it would be a good way to maybe show off Final Fantasy VII Remake, give a release date. Boom. We had heard, again, this is just a rumor, folks, that there is going to be something potentially new shown off at TGS 25. Again, that's a rumor, folks, but if you can take a new announcement and it's a bit of a banger and something we didn't see coming, like, I don't know, the Lost Odyssey remake or Lost Odyssey 2 or something so crazy that you just blows your mind, and then you pair it with the handheld, that's how you do business. That's how you get people excited about your handheld. Fuzzy, look, $1,000 is a lot of money in 2025. Hell, I would even dare say $1,000 would be a lot of money 5 years ago. But this is one of those handhelds that I personally have to have because it's exactly what I've always wanted. It is going to look, act like an Xbox, and I'm going to be able to take my gaming on the go. It's going to have some really beefy power. Again, I could go with the lesser one, but when I'm going to go, I go all the way. Let's get your thoughts on the leaks. And again, I'll get into, on the back half of this conversation. I can't specifically say who I talked to, but I do want to bring up Paris Lily's tweet and, get his public take on it. But what are your thoughts on again, folks, with a grain of salt leak that I'm going to say the Series X, that the Ally X could be $1,000.
I think a lot of us that were aware of the tech that's inside of it were kind of expecting that type of pricing, but all hope isn't lost just yet. Like it kind of depends on something that might become unpaused later this month, but I'm still holding out hope that this thing is $900 or like $899, but it is quite possible that it sees the $999 price. Like if you look at the previous year equivalent, which would be a Z1 Extreme, which is the regular ROG Ally X, those range in price on Asus's site for $799 all the way up to $999 on some of their partner distributors. And I think Best Buy is $899 at the current moment for that. Provided that the unpausing doesn't affect this, or maybe things go, get paused another 90 days, we could see it in that same price range as what the one was from last year. But if not, $999 out the door, maybe slightly more. Like if you do the direct conversion, it winds up being like $1,050. Isn't so bad for the tech that's inside. Yeah, it's a lot of money. But for those that might be a little gun shy based on the price, the lesser powerful one is still a handy kit in comparison to a current model Steam Deck, or even the regular Z1 non-extreme model that's currently floating out as far as the ROG Allies out there. This is more online with what would be a ROG Ally, 2 or ROG Ally X2 kind of deal at this current moment. But with Xbox being the backer behind it, I would say the prices are reasonable, although I would have loved for these to be like 600 and 800, but realistically 700 and 900 is probably what these will debut at. Sure, there'll be some places that may even try to charge a little bit more to kind of cover some extra, margin or whatnot. But I think these price, or at least the big boy one being priced closer to the 1,000 was expected. I'm glad it's not, beyond the $1,000 mark or like 1,200 or so, like some people may have thought it could be. But then again, tariffs could be a factor, but with this being considered kind of a PC, it should qualify for similar exclusions that PC hardware fell under before as well. So we'll see if tariffs become any type of factor, but if it's showing at €899, and I think the other one was like €599, be prepared to save somewhere between 900 to 1,000 if you want the X, or like 700 plus if you want the smaller model, which I'm going to repeat myself again. If you're new to PC gaming, console is the only way you've played. I would say the lesser model is a worthwhile investment because you can hook that to a monitor, a keyboard, and mouse, and have yourself a basically a 1080 PC that will be able to play most games. It's just that it won't play it in the highest fidelity. It'll be playing it similar to like a Series S in some cases, like for things like Cyberpunk, but you'll still be able to enjoy a lot of the Steam games that, until the next generation console comes out, that'll be about the easiest way to access it and for the least amount of money to have a decent handheld hardware wise. So we'll see.
A couple of things. I want you to, if you don't mind, clarify the power of this thing and how actually good it is. Because again, there's some people in the chat that are like, "Well, $1,000, I'm out." Listen, folks, I hear you. I don't have $1,000 under the couch cushions like Microsoft, but I'll figure a way to get it done without actually stealing. We'll work it out one way or another. But I just to clarify, it wasn't pounds, it's euros. And according to the actual article, the conversion is, like you said, would be €8.99. Mm-hmm. That would equate to $1,050 US.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, the Asus ROG Ally X typically sports a $799 price tag, but more specifically, like Best Buy, because of the tariffs, raised it $100. So right now it's $899.99, which is $900, folks, and that's without tax.
Yeah.
In your for your thought process on this, Fuzzy,
mm-hmm.
the ROG Ally X versus this new device, how comparable is one to the other? And is the new device better and potentially, because right now at Best Buy, it's $899, could we see an additional $100? Or maybe because of the parts potentially being cheaper, it lowers it?
I think what winds up happening is when this is released, the ROG Ally X drops a bit. It may drop $50. It may drop $150. So if you're looking at a current Asus ROG Ally X, I think you'll see a price drop similar to a lot of these handhelds. When the newer chipset comes out, it slots into the previous, tier price, and then the other one becomes more affordable. Much like when the ROG Ally X came out, the original ROG Allies dropped a good bit. Like people were able to pick up some for as low as $350 all the way up to like $550, depending on the drive space on it and stuff like that. So looking at the Z2 Extreme versus the Z1 Extreme, it's hard to compare it from a console standpoint. Yes, technically it's a new generation. It would be like jumping from Xbox One to Series X in comparison. But the key thing that you're going to see is that the processing speed, having that 24 gigs, which yes, you can get the 24 gigs also on the Z1 Extreme, but with it being a faster memory set, this is going to be a little bit more future-proof in comparison to picking up that ROG Ally X that's out there now. So let's say, for example, you pick up the ROG Ally X. After about 5 years, don't expect to play things like whatever the current day Witcher or the current day Cyberpunk would be without it being toned down to looking like graphics like a Switch 1 level type of downgrade at that point. This will give you at least another year or so with the Xbox Ally X before you get to that point where you're really going to start to notice it not keeping up at 30 frames on some of the higher end, more graphically intense type of games. But keep in mind, for those that are new to these handhelds, there are hubs or docks out there where you can hook an external video card to help power them through. So if this was to be like your entry into the PC space, having this handheld is a good console-like experience. But if you're hesitant to spend $1,500 to $3,000 on a good gaming rig that you build from the ground up kind of deal, this is a nice stopgap where you could do the external card in the meantime with a hub, which those docks range anywhere from $40 to $140, especially the ones that will allow like an external video card. But with that being said, that will extend the life of that handheld, and you'll have something they'll be able to keep up with most rigs that are priced at around to build somewhere between 1,500 to $2,000. So there is growth with this, or the growth possibility that you don't see with consoles. But from a standpoint, this being more of a generation, not a big generational leap, but more of an efficiency, better battery life, faster clock speed, just better processing at that point as far as being able to play games. You're probably looking at like it's hard to say at this moment, but I would say some of the games expect a slight uptick in the frames per second, maybe being able to turn everything to ultra as opposed to high on something that comes out a year or two from now, and be able to enjoy this game in handheld mode at 1080, or hook it to a dock and then play it on a monitor or your TV. Although I know some of the techies out there will push back and say hooking it to a TV, you'll see the frame drops. They'll be more noticeable on the one in white, which will be the regular Xbox Ally, but it wouldn't be like you're trying to go for like 90 frames or it'll be able to do 60 frames and do some dips similar to current gen consoles. But the X should be pretty rock steady on most stuff. But once you start getting into whatever Cyberpunk 2 or Witcher 4 might be, that's when I think it might be where you'll do 60 frames and then notice a drop here and there kind of deal. But that's, those are games that are probably 4 years, 5 years out. So this should have a pretty good shelf life for pretty much every game that you're aware of in production now, and being able to play it, especially like things like, for example, GTA 6, when it comes to PC, unless they do something a little bit different than they've done before, where they do a play anywhere kind of deal, which it's a possibility, but like unlikely at this point. But if they were to do something like that, yeah, you'd be able to enjoy it. But I don't hold your breath on GTA 6 being a play anywhere title off the rip. Like I think they want you, especially Take-Two, to double dip like they've had people do with
of course
GTA
it's Rockstar. What do you think? I mean, it's 2K. What do you think?
True. But the power wise, these are better than what the current Steam Deck is, what the Lenovo Legion Go S.
Okay.
Pretty much look for, like, for comparison's sake, what will be coming out as the Steam Deck 2, the Legion Go 2, or the MSI Claw 2. This is like them getting that jump start in comparison. Right. You'll start to see those other devices probably come out early next year, with this being released at holiday. So they'll get a couple of month jump on what these other ones will do. But the key thing, Microsoft doing the software on the back end, it's to improve on what Windows is running, or the way Windows runs on the current ROG Allies. So you get similar performance upticks or uplifts like what the Steam Deck does. Because the Steam software, the Steam OS, has been pretty good working behind the scenes as far as making sure you get, optimal battery life, optimal, screen or frames per second, with maybe some minor sacrifices on visuals, or going for a lock 30, but having all the bells and whistles turned up. This is a device that's definitely ahead of all of those devices that you can buy today. And like I said, the Steam Deck 2, Legion Go 2, MSI Claw 2, those would be the next comparable devices, which, maybe we see next February or so.